But their story didn't end there.
How could there have been only one? And he's back in business.
Is the worst idea in history of bad ideas.
Part 2 is the final chapter in the violent history.
This time, it's personal.
You thought the worst was over. You thought the beast was dead. But the nightmare...
What was that? Oh my God.
...has just begun. From the creators of Ginger Snaps...
What are you doing here?
I'm on to you. ...comes the next chapter... as one of the most terrifying werewolf tales continues.
Do you feel it? You're not alone.
In a world of eternal darkness,
If you keep me here, people are gonna die.
it waits.
What the hell is out there? The monster. He wants to mate with me.
How can you escape
How do we get out of here? It found me.
with the evil
This is not good. This is so not supposed to be happening.
He knows you're changing.
lives in your veins?
Go back to the darkness! What's happening? What the hell? I wouldn't go out there if I were you.
Ginger Snaps 2 Unleashed.
I just saw the freakiest thing.
If you like pink razors, tricking people into being admitted into insane asylums, bloodletting, creepy librarians, wolfsbane, a lot of wolfsbane, throwing pennies at little kids, sexy yoga, hairy palms, polyester, trapping people in the cellars, then you're going to like the sequel we're talking about this week. We're talking Ginger Snaps 2 Unleashed from 2004, the follow-up to Ginger Snaps. It is our month of spookiness. It is officially werewolf. Okay, here, I wrote it down. It's Revenge of the Sequel, Happy Howlow Scream. Oh, sorry, we can't say that, right? SeaWorld. Okay.
Yeah, SeaWorld.
Revenge of the Sequel, Happy Howlow, Blackfish. The Lichenless 2K22, Changeling Halland Wolf Wednesdays.
Oh!
And we're talking werewolves all month long.
Yeah.
I'm surprised
Furry little bastards.
they're not little. They're
Oh.
big.
Well, they...
Furry big, like
Yeah,
the big furries.
And
The
the
big
order
furry
of that is
bastards.
important. Yeah, you can't put big furry bastards. You can't put like
Oh, shit.
furry big bastards or bastards furry.
the
because you'll-
bastard's furry.
the battle of the furries, of the bastard furries. Can you imagine that? Game of Thrones style?
That'd be cool.
Write that. James Corden, you're retiring, so I can't send you my pitch. Damn. My name's Emmanuel.
Hey, I'm Andrew.
What's up? It's John.
Welcome to Revenge of the Sequel, the podcast just about sequels. We're on our second film. Do you think I should... I'm going to release this in order we record, right?
That's up to you, I guess.
I think we will.
Yeah, okay.
What do you think? That makes sense?
That makes sense here. We're coming off the high that is fucking American Werewolf in Paris.
Mm-hmm.
And we're jumping into Ginger Snaps 2 Unleashed.
Or did we just do Underworld with Brent? Now I confused
Oh,
you.
yeah.
No. We're doing this
You're
in order.
confusing me.
This is the last one we're recording in this line.
Werewolf. You know what we should figure out? And we should do this now because we did not do this for the first one.
The title screen says Ginger Snaps Unleashed, but the
actual
the 2B
description
is
is
Ginger Snaps 2.
two-
We need to
Electric Boogaloo.
figure out what are like we're going to start to have to figure out what some of the common werewolf stuff is in all these movies. And then we should start to rate wolves. Like we should rate how cool the wolf is.
How furry it is. How like,
I guess, yeah, sure. But like
sharp the
just
teeth are.
We need to rate the wolves.
Is it
somehow.
a bipedal wolf or is it all four?
Does it switch in between?
That's true. Yeah.
Are they
Wolfer?
Wolfer? We'll have to see. But I feel like we should figure out what our wolf criteria is. And then by the end of this, we'll know.
Apparently,
the best
silver
wolf.
bullets,
wolf
like, you
mechanics,
can
if
just
you
kill
will.
them all regularly. From these last two movies,
Yeah.
you can just stab it with a stick and then
And
it dies.
kill it, yeah. Or just find a psychopath. Just find one. They'll kill it for you.
That's it.
And also, this one, I don't know if this is going to come up in any of the other shit that we watch, but Wolfsbane, huh? Damn. But
On the nose, a little bit.
Need a little Wolfsbane. John, you've seen Ginger Snaps. Andrew, have you seen Ginger Snaps? I haven't.
No, I've eaten some ginger snaps.
Good,
mostly.
good. Yeah. That's another thing that I want to ask you because you've seen it, but why the fuck is this called Ginger Snaps is my question.
I think it's like Isn't that obvious? Like, because the character's name is Ginger.
In the
And
first
she
one.
snaps.
And she snaps.
Ooh, snap.
Do they ever
Snaps with a woo.
Ginger Howl? Do they ever talk about the Ginger
cookie?
Snap cookie?
I don't know. I don't think that's an actual thing in the movie. I think that's just the
What is
title.
happening? So they never even thought about it.
I don't think Ginger Snaps the cookie is invented in the universe of the movie. Like they were never invented.
So
I know this from watching Marvel. This is a multiverse. This is a multiverse.
This is what happens in
Yeah.
a movie like this. Yeah.
Okay, I'm glad because this is. I do know that Ginger Snaps is going to be in the Marvels.
Well,
so-
the werewolf that bit Ginger in the first one, his name was Snaps
so Ginger
and Snaps.
snaps. Well, John, what did you think about the first movie? Give us. I think there's one moment in the movie where she's driving in the car and kind of recaps it for us, and that's the first time I was like, oh, okay, like I know what's happening. But tell us about the first one. What'd you think about it? Well, why'd you watch it? All that.
So I had always heard, working at a video store, you would get requests for a DVD called Ginger Snaps, and so I known about it then, or I first heard about it like basically working at a DVD store, and then like doing research on it. You know, some people told me that it was a werewolf movie, and I was like, oh, that's really cool. And then apparently it follows two like teenage goth girls or whatever. Ended up watching it, a couple of weeks back, from this recording, I guess, probably about a month back actually. And actually was very impressed with it. It was super. There was like themes, like actual like thematic depth to it, as opposed to like just being a very, run of the mill werewolf movie.
Critics love this movie. The first
Yeah,
one.
and it was and then it has like at first it gives the impression, like when you're watching it, that it's over the top. Like the acting is kind of a little wonky or something maybe. It kind of gives that feel to it, only because it does feel very low budget and stylized in the way like it's edited or in the way it's like shot. There's a lot of like Dutch angles and stuff
it
like
feels
that.
like an independent.
Right. It's very independent.
Yeah.
And because of that, I think I don't know. I guess I'm generalizing and speaking for people, but like I think the notion is to turn it off or change it to something else because it looks kind of cheap or it feels cheap. But you ended up sitting through that first one and being like, whoa, this is a very fresh take on a werewolf. It's like about two sisters who are like, their relationship is falling apart because one is turning into this monster. And she's doing her best to try to, like the younger one, Bridget, who's played by, I think in this one, or in both of them, by Emily Perkins.
You see some of that in this movie that we watched, at least.
Yeah. You see some of the sisterhood theme, I guess, comes back around. It's not as strong as it was in the first one, but the first one is, I guess not to spoil too much of it because I guess y'all are going to watch it. I guess this movie spoiled it for y'all.
Yeah, it does, yeah.
But the actual
dies.
overall feel of the first one is really, it's surprisingly emotional and heartwarming at times, and then it's a very effective horror movie when it gets down to it. I think the third act in the first movie is what surprised me and then kind of got me to, because I think even up until that point I was just like, okay, whatever.
Yeah.
Like it's kind of cheesy. It gives off very teen slasher vibes, like early 2000s teen slasher vibes. And it really does, to me, it did like a 180 on terms of like how the movie was going to go in the third act. And the confrontation with the werewolf is surprisingly effective
Yeah.
and scary.
I would say there's a little of that in this one, too.
Yeah. And then,
little third act buffoonery.
yeah, some buffoonery.
Wolf's play.
But that was my, I'd never seen it before. And then
Puppy. Nope, I'm out. Sorry.
puppy play.
Nope, I don't want to say that. Is
Okay.
that might be a thing? It sounds like a thing.
Yeah, but it was a very surprising movie. I ended up liking it like a lot, and then I like it that much to want to watch this second one and the third one. I did watch both of these a couple of weeks back as well, like kind of after we saw the first one, and then I was genuinely surprised by this second one, and wasn't really too impressed by that third one. But that third one definitely was like cash grab, like cashing in on the whole like craze that apparently came about whenever this movie was released on DVD, because I don't think the first one made too much money, but it picked up because of word of mouth, which is what we're doing here. Because of word of mouth, like
Everybody run to your DVD stores.
yeah, everyone really loved it, and so that's why the second one and the third one exist, which is because of the success and the cult hit, the cult following around the first movie.
Yeah, the second movie made darn over $80 million. That's kind of surprising to me for kind of a franchise that I didn't even know existed in an interesting way.
Was it 80 million or 80,000?
80 million.
Did it really?
Oh, shoot, 80,000. Whoopsies. That's why I was like,
I think it
huh.
had a wider release than the first one, but
Oh.
it didn't make as much money as like they wanted it
Whoopsie
to.
doopsie.
Yeah, that's so crazy that you said that. I was like, oh man, we just got to dial it back.
When
here.
I thought it was 80 million, I was like, how did we not like watch this in theaters standing in line? Because lines existed back then. But Andrew, what did you think about Ginger Snaps 2 Unleash, considering that I think you and I don't think
went in cold.
went in soft.
Yeah. Well, the first thing that right off the bat, like from the title sequence, you can tell it's going to be pretty edgy. I think it deals with a lot of.
I thought it was heroin. Like I was like, was this a
I mean, it's
heroin
obviously
movie?
a metaphor.
a
probably
play
like,
on
you
it.
know,
Well, and
like the play on it,
that's
yeah.
what I think was crazy about this movie is that it starts like that, and I was like, man, like. Hooey. Like, like if someone's
And it's
squeamish,
some-
they already are not going to be
Oh,
into
yeah.
this movie.
If you're scared of needles, do not watch this
I
movie.
mean, like the razors all over her body, and you're like, oh my god, like she's gonna cut herself or whatever. And so it deals with a lot of things that I think are touchy subjects in today's world, like physical abuse, sexual abuse. It's got gaslighting in here. It's got addiction. It's got drug use. It's got like,
pretty heavy themes for a monster movie.
Yeah. You have like basically, medical staff taking advantage of their patients and stuff like that, and you're like, Jesus Christ, like this is a lot of touchy ass shit. But also, yeah, it does have the fun stuff, the gore and the you get the big suit reveal at the very end.
Kind of a solid wolf too.
Yeah, and like John said, I think it's a very refreshing take on the werewolf, where it's obviously, and I was trying to talk to John and asking him these questions on the rules of the werewolf in this movie or in this franchise, because the wolf is obviously still the wolf in this. Like once you turn into the wolf, you're permanently the wolf in this one.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
So
didn't know that.
You don't turn back.
Didn't know that.
And it's kind of like you're going to your death, and that's why like
You're dying.
Like
Yeah,
you're
basically.
that's it. Like you're
giving
it's
up.
like District 9, where like that dude's turning into the bug, and that's it.
Spoiler alert for District 9.
You said spoiler.
Hey, I was gonna watch that at
Yeah,
one
yeah.
point.
It's the same thing here, where like that's it. You stay that way. So it's pretty.
That's cool.
And apparently the wolfsbane helps, I guess, because she starts to kind of slow down the transformation. But
I mean, she's a wolf by the end, right? Like
Well,
full
and-
wolf. There's no way.
I
I
think-
mean,
I
I
think
haven't
so. I
seen
think
the
it's-
third one. Okay.
it's very interesting that it just kind of like the whole movie's plot happens like randomly, because like she just kind of passes out and then she goes into this like psych ward, and this is where everything happens. All the characters
I
kind
had
of
to
built up.
rewind because I was like, wait, is this
She was
movie the
just
same
found,
movie as
yeah.
the first movie?
Because you're like, why is she here? And you're like, oh, literally, she just passed out and she got caught, and then boom.
But was it the creepy librarian who followed her? Or what happened there?
the creepy librarian who followed her is the Brandon Fletcher guy.
That's his
That's his name. That's his actual name.
Okay.
That guy was just bringing her books and just like liked.
Yeah.
So brought her books and saw that and
So that she
decided
was,
to put her
that she
into
was
a-
ODing on wolfsbane.
Well, yeah, he put her in his car because he saw that like
This
she
is
might
like-
have been OD.
He's like, I gotta get you to the hospital, and then he's
he's
in his
attacked.
house.
He's attacked.
Here's
by a
the
fucking
lesson,
werewolf.
everyone. Mind your own business. Stay in your lane. Don't be
Or a
putting
werewolf.
people into rehab.
Or else you're gonna get caught up in this wolf in heat trying to mate with
Just-
this other wolf.
Just stay away from the wolf.
That's what I was telling John. I was like, they're not really werewolves if they don't turn back into humans.
They're
They're
just-
just wolves.
I guess,
He just
yeah.
he transformed into a wolf.
And there's also no overt moon stuff going on.
No, there
right?
isn't.
Okay,
Like,
because
that's
I
why
was
think
like, "Where's
they-
the cut to the
I think
full
they
moon?"
mention it too. There's like
Oh,
the
okay.
full moon doesn't give like they don't. Who gives a shit of the full moon?
And so
You're
that's why I
eventually
like this,
just gonna-
because it treats it like a monster
like a
movie.
disease and like a transformation. It's a transformational one, not a disease, but like
It's like
transformational.
the
You gradually
It's like
turn
the front
into it.
cover of Animorph. The
Yeah, like
old
body
books.
horror.
Well, and like,
Or-
man, they
I
have
guess
some
so,
pretty
yeah.
squeamish sequences where like she chops off half her ear because they're starting to point like
Yeah, they're
links.
starting to look like it.
Yeah, like
and when
Link.
she's like halfway through looking like a wolf, by the end, it kind of looks
It looks scary.
rowdy too. Yeah,
Yeah, that's some pretty cool practical makeup there.
she looks busted.
But yeah, I was actually very surprised by the movie because I actually was pretty engaged, and I dug it because of the different take. Me and John talked about it the other day, where we're like, man, there's not really a refreshing like a good like
Different
modern werewolf movie, and you'd be surprised because
That's what
like
it is, yeah.
we have like in a world where The Invisible Man can be a really good movie, but Lee Wynell. And it was redone and modernized and stuff like that. We surprisingly haven't seen something like that. So
Yeah, like even like Midnight Mass with vampires. was really
vampires.
cool.
We had What We Do in the Shadows, of Twilight, and the stuff like that. So we've had modern vampire stories, even with Blade, the upcoming Blade and stuff like that. But Moon Knight literally appeared in Werewolf by Night, the first issue, and we still haven't even seen that in the MCU.
You get kind of a wolf in New Mutants, which I'll talk about in my review. But kind of felt a little similar.
Oh, I see. Interesting.
There's a dog. Well, she turns into a dog though, huh?
I thought
Or should she turn into a wolf?
Isn't it wolfsbane?
Yeah, that is wolfsbane.
Yeah, like that's the name of that
Connection.
character. Probably the character. That's what you thought of.
She watched Ginger Snaps like when
it
she
came
needed
out.
to get into the character for sure.
But I had a lot of fun with this specific movie, and it was way better than Werewolf in Paris.
You know what? It's way better than I thought too. Because I was from the cover I was like,
It's
oh boy,
surprising,
we're
yeah.
gonna watch like a 2000s.
Yeah, definitely. When you see the cover, even like the cover of the DVD, like I remember people bringing it up, they're like, "Have you seen that movie?" And I was like, "I don't know if I want to."
And
Like
to be honest, confusing ass title. Like to just call
definitely.
it Ginger Snaps, I think makes you think like this is a drama about two bakers. the butcher, the baker, the candlestick maker. Like that's legitimately why I don't think I've ever seen this movie, just because of the title. Because if you look at Ginger Snaps, you're like, oh fuck, I like Oreos, and turn it off right away. But John, what do you think about this movie?
This movie's great. I'm going to go down the cast list. We have Emily Perkins as Bridget
Jesus
Fitzgerald, main character of this movie. She is the sister of Catherine Isabel Ginger Fitzgerald, who was the main character in the first movie.
She got married to someone named Snaps?
Larry Fitzgerald.
no. I think-
Okay, all right. They still got to figure that out.
I do like that this movie kind of still keeps them as the leads. I think the second lead actually goes to Tatiana Maslany.
Emmy winner from Orphan Black. She's amazing.
This is her first movie, I think. Her first actual
She's young.
project.
Yeah.
She's gonna be the She-Hulk, and she's
She-Hulk?
She's the
obsessed
She-Hulk, yeah.
with comics in this movie. Coincidence?
Some other people from this cast is Eric Johnson as Tyler, who's the orderly, I think, and then there's Janet Kidder as
The doctor?
Alice, Severston, and then Brendan Fletcher again.
It's Brendan.
As Jeremy. Brendan Fletcher as Jeremy. Who's
Brendan Fraser.
Brendan Fraser, yes, it's Jeremy.
Fraser Crane? Niles. That werewolf is...
This movie was, because the first one is kind of like a gem. Like, you're kind of like, oh, cool. And then you kind of assume, because this is like a trilogy of movie, and the third one is set. I'm going to go ahead and just spoil the third one for you. The third one is set in the 1800s.
What the fuck?
With the same
When the
cast.
werewolf first
With
came
the
With the same cast?
Yeah,
It's a
exactly.
repertory film?
Yeah, it's a the original, like,
Their
Twisters who
lineage.
looked,
That's a swing for sure.
like a
That's
link.
cool.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Like Zelda, like all the links just look the same.
Oh,
That's
okay.
how the sisters just look the same. in the
You
third
know,
one.
Fear Street did this for Netflix. Like the final one was set in the Pilgrim time.
Yeah, and
the
then
beginning of the curse.
And then the cast looks like the
the
cast.
same. Yeah,
You
so
love
it's the same
R.L.
thing.
Stein.
Yeah, goosebump.
just the single one.
Just a single.
I get one goosebump when I read it, but it's huge.
Oh, okay.
It's the size of my whole back. So when I get scared, people
gotta drain it
yell
like the-
Quasimodo.
Quasimodo.
Where were we? I forgot. I was so appalled by what just happened. I lost my train of thought. No, this movie is actually really because of I'd heard what happens in the third one. I was like, the second one has to be bad, compared to the first one. The first one was kind of like catching lightning in a bottle or something. And you're just like, wow, you can't replicate that. And then this second one is very, very different from the first one, which is like one of those things where I talk about on this podcast a lot. Like you got to give it props to those sequels that kind of go in a different direction, but are still their very much own movie. And that's what makes them like great sequels. This one does that. I think everybody just taking the concept a little bit further from the first movie and introducing like a theme like drug addiction and and stuff like that is pretty gnarly. I think it's not as fresh as the first one because the first one kind of has this tone, this weird. I think the first one kind of balances, even though it's still kind of a little wonky. I think the first one balances that kind of almost like a weird dark humor to it and horror. I think the first one balances that a little bit better, but this one kind of still plays around with it. I think everyone's taking it very seriously. Like all the performances. I think the ghost character is a little weird still watching it on the second time around. The girl who talks in comic book quotes.
Yeah, it's like deranged. I don't know.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't even know what that character is. It's a super interesting character.
It totally is,
I'm
but
like,
it's almost
whoa.
like you kind of like from watching it from the beginning, you're kind of like that character is very much evil from the start.
Yeah,
like definitely.
And she's really into collages, which is like just another layer to her. And you're just like, okay.
You never really see like it's really funny though because you never really see like a young character, a young like girl character kind of like obsessed with like comic books and stuff. So like for that being here in 2004, it's kind of like I don't know if it's that's not a game changer, but that's just something you don't see very often. So that's really cool, kind of like see like a really nerdy young girl, and stuff in a movie,
albeit going too far with it. But
yeah, exactly. I mean, she does go kind of into
it's a lesson to young girls.
Don't take your stories very seriously.
Don't read
comics.
No, I'm just gonna stop with what I said.
Just don't read. But I mean, it's really good. I love the angle of this one where it's just like she's trying to keep a transformation at bay, kind of like the first one. Like it repeats the tropes of like trying to delay.
I want to ask you: was wolfsbane introduced in the first one?
Okay, yes. Cool, it was introduced as kind of the like thing going into the third act. Like, this could be the thing. And this one, you kind of
wolf is in the in the name of the
also like a wolfsbane. In doing research, like wolfsbane back in the like medieval like Europe, like they thought that warded off like werewolves and stuff.
Okay, so John, you did a little research, huh?
Yeah, I think I also played like a Nancy Drew.
You went to the microfiche.
You know those little hunt a killer like mystery games?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I played a Nancy Drew one where wolfsbane was in it, so I had to like learn about wolfsbane and stuff.
I see.
We've been shooting up.
Okay.
Wolfsbane. Yeah. But overall,
you look a little more like a wolf than
I've
when you started.
I've been injecting wolfsbane underneath my toenail.
Hey, I've been injecting a little herb too, brother. Why am I Hulk Hogan now?
I don't know why that part
Thank you for
happened.
doing this.
The wolfsbane. You're welcome.
Thanks for letting me wolfsbane
Wolfsbane
your wife.
God damn.
He's coming into town in like 2 weeks. So get my ass.
Hope he doesn't. Yeah, he's gonna be trending that day. Overall, fun movie. I think it's still like didn't expect the direction to go this way. Like especially with that final twist of her being like kind of a demented like psycho child,
a demented little Red Riding Hood.
Yeah, like a psycho child basically. But it's really that in itself was also very like unexpected, and so like and then. It's not boring at all. Like the movie is pretty cool. It's effective with its kills. With the, you can, in this case, you can kind of see because it's like the budget might run out or something, but you don't really see the werewolf until the very end. But even then, it's still very effective. And looking at it, like the design of the creature and everything, and even the makeup on Emily Perkins. The makeup on her at the very end. The wolf makeup is pretty solid. So overall, the movie is pretty great. I mean, this is my second time watching it for the podcast, and I still had as much fun as I did the first time. So it was pretty cool.
Yeah, I really enjoyed this movie, surprisingly. I think that there was definitely a lot of confusion for me going in, especially maybe until the halfway point even. But I mean, it's interesting that, seeing, I guess, someone you killed is something that that happens in American Werewolf in Paris and also in this. I don't know. Is that a werewolf thing to like see the people that you've kind of killed? Because she like actually sees her sister in this, right?
I feel like that might be a thing.
Is that okay? Because I was like, is that an actual thing? Because
I don't know. I think that might be a movie werewolf thing. I think maybe
we've got 2 other movies to see, but if it happens in the other ones, I think it's a thing. Does that make sense? Because I was like, that's a cool, or it could just be inspired from American Werewolf in London. But
it could be like just inspired off of that. Let me see.
I really enjoyed it. It was incredibly surprising. I honestly think Tatiana Maslany did such a great job as the ghost. It's sort of off-putting. Something is kind of wrong, and you don't trust her all the time, even from the very beginning, especially with that patient who's super burned or something, and she's kind of like, I guess, like being kind of weird around her. She's trying to call for help. And, But I think she really stole the show and ultimately was kind of the main character, especially at the end, overpowering everyone. It did remind me a lot of New Mutants a little bit, especially in the...
Did it really?
Yeah, I mean, I think New Mutants probably watched a little of this.
Yeah.
Because the whole asylum thing is really interesting, especially when one of them basically has a power or something that they're hiding from the rest of them. But
okay, yeah, I see that. You're probably right. Yeah, maybe
the wolf stuff was interesting too. I was expecting a little bit more, I guess, classic medieval werewolf stuff
like
happening,
lore,
and it's not. And I thought that was really cool. And there is a lot of drug addiction themes, of course, self-harm all over this movie. But it sounds weird to say that, but it is an intense, dark movie at times. I mean, it definitely talks about sexual abuse from that orderly, and it's a very moody werewolf movie.
Very, very moody.
It is really angsty still. I feel that. I don't know if the first one had a lot of that.
First one probably maybe even more so. I think
Probably
this
with
one,
the two sisters for
yeah,
sure.
This one kind of moves away from. I mean, the characterization even in Bridget is a little different than she was. She's a little bit more headstrong on this one than she was in the first one, but that's
Okay.
because she's not around the sister, the Ginger character, which is, a ghost in this one, I think.
But it was great. I think when they were on the run, the two-hander between Tatiana Maslany and Emily Perkins was really cool.
Mm-hmm.
I thought like if the first one's about sisters, then maybe this is what's happening. Is they're kind of becoming finding each other. It's going to be like this sick, twisted, fucked up thing
Relationship, yeah.
which I guess it kind of ended up being that way. I thought it was interesting that the second half of the movie takes place in her dead grandmother's
Like
home?
a cabin.
Does that make
yeah,
sense?
and
Okay.
they
She's not dead yet.
well, it's also
She's
like
actually coming
she's
home
a
at the very
burn,
end.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
shit,
And
you're right.
Yeah, she's gonna fear to the werewolf.
There's a
at the very end,
welcome. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, I
Why
thought
would
it
she
was
want to
cool.
go home to that? I don't know. I was like, doesn't the grandma know that she burnt? Because there's hints throughout the movie. I think
Yeah.
maybe I'm going on a tangent, but
No, you're
there's
right.
hints throughout the movie where like the grandma's trying to call for a nurse, and then she keeps She-Hulk girl keeps pulling her away from the.
From the call button.
From the call button,
She's
yeah.
kind of like manhandling her, even while she's in the bed.
Yeah.
It's kind of crazy. I mean, I thought that's what was, and as I was watching the movie, there are plenty of moments that I think you're just kind of roll your eyes. You're like, oh boy, like this is going to be super moody or whatever. But I think Tatiana, or her the ghost character, especially towards the end, you're like, oh, I'm back. Like this is crazy stuff. But I think that like if you're making any movie, period, you should do something totally different from anything before you. And this, I mean, Ginger Snaps.
Yeah, it swings, right? Like
yeah.
it does swing. I think it hits too. I'm just like, this is actually one of those things where you're just kind of like, all right, well,
Yeah.
this is like a welcome, like.
I mean,
it's definitely a take.
It's
but
a dark
like, pretty cool.
ending. It's a hardcore ending. It's not a happy ending at all. It's super, I guess, like nihilist, but also very like twisted.
Yeah, and I think that's the end of the story. Like the end of the
That's true.
Ginger
The
Snaps,
next one's the
a prequel, like in the 1800s. So like,
Ooh.
but this one, yeah, is definitely a little bit more on the like extreme side than it went in the first one.
Super edgy, man.
You gotta watch Ginger Snaps. All right, here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna play a quick game, and then we'll talk a little bit more about Ginger Snaps. Maybe, I think this movie's pretty efficient. It's like 90 minutes, or it's like 100 minutes or something like that. So there's not a ton of sequences to talk about, even though we'll do that. So maybe we'll talk about like maybe some who would direct a new one. Here's the game. It's gonna be very quick. It's called Ginger Snaps. We did a last.
Wow, that's what the name is.
Yep, that's the name of the game. The last episode, I think we did a whole Dick Wolf trivia game.
Okay,
this
cool.
one's a little bit easier. It's Ginger Snaps, and here's how you will play. You will alternate back and forth. So, John, you won movie trivia, I believe. So, Drew, you can start this game, or you can choose whether you start or pass it on.
Still don't understand what you're saying. We're going to go back and forth.
You're going to alternate back and forth, and what you're trying to do is give me all of the ingredients to making a Ginger Snap cookie.
Oh, okay.
And I feel like it's going to be easy at the beginning.
I can just look
Because
this shit up. Hold
no,
on, let's see.
don't look it up. No, don't. You're not going to use your phone at all either. But you will go back and forth and just say an ingredient, and if it is part of the Ginger Snaps recipe, you are safe, and the next person has to think of the next ingredient. Does that make sense?
Yes.
It's a volley back and forth. So, Drew, do you want to start, or do you want John to start? You're in your head.
He's
he
going
knows
through the- yeah.
from memory. Here's what I'll say.
John will go first.
There are
You want me to go first?
there are only 10 ingredients, and this is from all.
God, that's way more than I thought.
This is from
He was counting
allrecipes.com. There are only 10 ingredients, and here's what I'll say: none of them are like weird. They're all
Okay, cool.
very common, and this is why Ginger Snaps are one of the most popular cookies to make at home.
So what do you So as soon as one person gets the thing wrong, it's it?
Yeah.
Is that it?
That's it.
That's it?
It's it. So once
That's
you get
the fucking
you
dumbest,
fucking lost.
this
but
is
here's
the-
what I'll tell you.
Hey, you lost, bitch.
I just told you everything that
You
is
need to
probably.
know.
I'm not even joking. Everything here is probably in your cabinets right now. Like this is not crazy.
You got to go through the recipe then and tell these listeners how to make it.
Yeah, and the loser has to make them.
Oh shit.
The loser has to make them.
Oh, and then for extra points, you have to tell me how many cups,
dust-
how
yeah,
many,
how many tablespoons.
okay, but here we go. So Andrew, John will begin. So John, let me know. And of course, once you've said it, it's off the list. Okay, so don't just keep saying the same thing over and over again. But John, what is your first ingredient in the recipe for ginger snaps, the cookie?
Egg.
Egg. Let me see if it's on the list.
Wrong. I
Is
win.
it wrong already?
No. Egg is on the list. You do need egg for a ginger
like,
snap.
what the fuck?
You need one large egg.
You need a
Yeah.
food processor.
You know what I should do? I should do Paula Dean's version, and it's like freaking butter. You need chicken broth. You need,
Bacon grease.
you need some bacon grease in there. Let's see what else we got in Mama's kitchen.
Oh, shit.
Drew, it's your turn. What is another? I guess
Flour.
ingredient? Flour. Let's see if it's on
Oh,
the list.
shit,
Let's see.
no.
Let's see.
Imagine if it wasn't.
Yes, it is. 2 cups of all-purpose flour. It's on the list. And listeners at home, go ahead and go to your kitchen.
start
Start
making
gathering.
it. Start
As
making
we
it.
say
Yeah.
things, start gathering. We're not going to tell you.
Ship them over.
We're going to tell you the ingredients, but nothing about cooking.
Yeah,
so
exactly. Just throw them all in a bowl and figure out the rest.
yeah. So we got large egg from John. We got a large egg from John. He just pooped out an egg, and then we've got flour from Drew. So it's back to John. John, what's another ingredient in ginger snaps? This really is not a game where you have to overthink,
Yeah, I know.
but
You're going to start running out of shit.
You're gonna start, and then you're gonna be like, oh man, maybe
Cinnamon.
Cinnamon is on the list. Actually, there's one thing here I don't know what it is. Now I'm looking at it, I'm like, I guess I don't know what that
No one's
is.
going to get that last one.
But yes, there is cinnamon. You do need 1 teaspoon of ground cinnamon.
Milk.
No, there's no milk on the list, right? It's water.
Andrew,
I'm the weakest link.
there's
Fuck.
no milk on the list, so you've lost already. Well, that sucks. This game was supposed to last
That's what I was about
a little longer. I guess for shits and giggles, we'll keep playing. But how about this? How many strikes do we want to do? Let's do like 2 strikes.
Let's do 3 strikes.
Let's do 3 strikes. So,
Oh, Jesus, 2 strikes.
Andrew, you've got. There's only 10, so I guess we can.
strikes.
You know what? Let's do 3 strikes. Andrew, you've gotten 1 strike. John, oh wait, it's back to you. John, what's another ingredient?
Um,
Again, there's no milk.
water.
You got your first strike. There is no water, so it's like no one got a strike in that.
I got it.
Go ahead, Drew. What's another ingredient?
Sugar.
There is. I'm gonna ask this: what color sugar?
Brown sugar.
Yes, you got 1 cup of brown sugar.
Oh, it's not red sugar?
There's only.
It's not white.
Aren't there
not
other colors
white.
of sugar besides white and brown?
Black sugar.
Whoa, that's good.
I don't
I
know.
could see it being something like that. That'd be cool.
Like a
Pink is there
Sweet.
Just
pink?
because of
I feel
like
it'd be pink sugar.
like you want to spice things up with the.
Yeah,
Just
yeah,
put
yeah.
like flavored coloring in your
Yeah,
sugar.
yeah,
yeah,
exactly.
Just, like,
John, what's another recipe? What's another ingredient in ginger snaps? So we've got egg, we've got flour, we've got cinnamon, we got some sugar. What else is in that? What else is in that bowl?
vanilla extract.
You got your second strike.
Fuck! I win.
No vanilla. No, we're doing 3.
All right, I got it. Ginger.
Yep. This is.
Boom,
I
bitch!
was like, when is someone gonna say ginger in ginger snaps?
So,
and
He's
Drew
like,
got
do
it.
I say snaps?
You could if you want to, but you need at least 1 teaspoon of ground ginger. So I'll tell you this: there's still 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And you've got half of them. Hey, we got half a recipe.
Salt.
You need 1/4 teaspoon of salt, John. You're still in the game. So there are only 4 ingredients left to ginger snaps. We've got brown sugar, an egg, flour, ginger, cinnamon, and salt. What else do you need?
Huh. Let me see.
Andrew, if you...
You're like, let me get my next 2 strikes right now.
You can definitely throw the game if you want to.
Let me see. Butter.
There's no butter.
Damn it.
Second strike.
Okay. All right. So second strike
We're
for
tied.
you, Andrew. Tied at 2.
John's about to get his 3rd strike right here, and then I win the game.
What's the other? Oh, yeah, that is interesting. John, you have to get this right or Andrew wins after we saved him by giving him 3 strikes. Okay, here we go. John, you got to get this right. There's still 4 ingredients.
Oh, shit.
He's stalling.
Fucking hell, I can't really
You're cooking.
Cookies.
I would say 2 of these are really common when you're cooking, or when you're baking. Sorry, 2 of these are really common when you're baking.
Coconut oil.
Third strike, baby.
Third strike.
Oh,
Too
son of a
specific. Vegetable oil is definitely there, and then you need a 4th cup of molasses, some baking soda for that
Baking
crunch,
soda. I
and then
got
the one I
baking.
thought would be weird is ground cloves. You need some of that.
That's a little weird. Yeah.
But Andrew, congratulations! You've won ginger snaps.
Now have some to eat.
All right, we'll be back. Well, we're going to talk about the wolf that's in this, and I guess for the next 2, what we thought about the werewolf itself as like a symbol or as a, I guess what it looked like. I mean, American Werewolf in London, I think, kind of introduces to one of the best portrayals of an actual werewolf. What do you think about the wolf in this movie?
It was
So as a wolf,
Yeah.
or as a werewolf.
As a lycanthrope.
As a werewolf, it's pretty. There's a solid 0 because it's not a werewolf really.
How do you know though? I thought werewolf
doesn't
just
turn.
means
No.
you just turn into a werewolf.
Once? Let
This
me
is so
Google
funny.
it.
Yeah, I was about to say.
What's the definition of a werewolf? Is that it turns back
I don't know.
and
Hold
forth.
on. That's what
It's
the
like the
internet's for.
flesh-eating zombie.
What's that?
Where you're like zombie is usually flesh-eating zombie, not the in a trance zombie.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know.
What? I thought you were Googling it.
I
You have a
am,
computer
but
in front of you.
somebody's internet isn't working.
I didn't want to shout you out on blast, but your internet's
My
out.
Wi-Fi just
But
fucked
while
up right
I'm
now.
Googling it,
That's not true. Look, Ginger Snaps 2 is playing off of a fucking stream on the TV right now.
no, it's not. That's creepy.
That's DVD.
That's wolf magic. But John, what do you
DVD.
think about this wolf?
As a wolf, it's
Oh my
good.
God.
As a wolf, he's good.
Wait, did you finish your thoughts on it?
Well, that's
Or,
what I'm
like-
saying. As a werewolf, it's a 0, but as a wolf, it's pretty good.
I
like
thought
the
it
way
was
he
pretty
looks.
cool. Yeah, exactly. I think you build up
You're not gonna like the answer.
Oh shit! That means it is a werewolf.
No,
isn't it?
because a werewolf comes from the Greek of lycanthropus, wolf human,
like in Thrusi.
a human that has the ability to shapeshift between wolf. But there's also therianthropic hybrid wolf-like creatures that have curses that some of them can't. So it doesn't. It's
So
all fake.
it's
all fake.
it's the serious Black Lupin thing from Harry.
Lycanthropy, which is the study of lycanthrope shapeshifting.
So it's the way you say it, it's all fake though.
So there's a genus of werewolf that stay permanently and don't have a choice.
That's
probably.
actually, I mean, that's really cool though, because you're kind of, it's like you're going off to die basically.
Yeah,
Yeah, you're
it's-
just turning into another animal.
It's less of a fun thing. Like,
Yeah, yeah.
oh, cool, I get to do this. It's more of a
you can't.
it's a death.
Yeah, you're just like you're becoming this other animal, and your senses just go away completely.
Like puberty when it hits you, and you're like, I'm getting a
I
little
think
hairy
that's
on
what
my
the-
lips.
That's what the first one was about, and I
And?
think this deals with that. Like you kind of because the werewolf seems to be kind of unlocking like these animalistic tendencies in Bridget and in Ginger in the first one.
She's looking at things. She's eating deer.
She's eating deer. She's
smelling
sniffing
people.
She's sniffing
She's
dudes.
sniffing everyone.
The wolf itself, though, I like the jaws build up because of the. I mean, I guess at this point you're thinking because it's a low budget, you can't really show it for that long. But
Yeah.
I think the build up until you actually the build up, and then the actual reveal of it is really really cool. So and it looks really awesome. Like I think for
Yeah.
a designed werewolf that's kind of practical, I guess in close ups, or any shot. I don't think there's CG in this at all.
Yeah, I don't think so either. There's less CG in this than a movie that came out before it, American Werewolf
American
in
Werewolf in
Paris,
Paris,
which
yeah.
had mostly CG. I
Yeah,
believe.
there wasn't real werewolves in there.
And I guess we can talk about we've already talked
was cool,
about
though.
it, but when she's got 1 foot in werewolf, 1 foot in human, it also looks really neat. It's not necessarily like full wolf, but
No, and
she got contacts on.
And then she's got contacts on. She's got like the
little
faces.
snout.
Yeah, the snout
She
just
got
starting
kind of
to
that
show.
weird arm.
The arm.
She got a hairy ass palm.
She got a good arm.
She got hairy ass palms and stuff. Yeah, I think the design is really cool. You can especially for a movie like this, it can come off as off-putting whenever you show the reveal of your creature, and then you're
Yeah.
just kind of like, oh, it's kind of lame or something. But in this one, it kind of looks really awesome, and I think that has to do with the way you don't see it at first and how the kills are happening.
Yeah.
Because there is like a small little body count that isn't the main characters. That's pretty cool.
I
And
want to
for
ask.
for some reason, no one finds these bodies.
Well, that's what I was going to ask about this wolf. Do we know who this wolf is? It's just another werewolf.
I think
Supposed to be the
killing
one,
people.
the original one from the first
Oh.
one.
So no, there's
Kind of.
so there's a wolf that dies in the first one that attacks them both.
That dies?
Yeah, and
shit.
then there is so in the first one, and then there's I feel like I don't want to spoil it too much because do want you guys to genuinely be surprised for that first
Yeah.
movie.
I mean, do you
but
care?
there's another character that gets bit, like another character.
And that's who this is.
It's implied that that's who this is. It's
Okay,
implied,
because
yeah.
we don't. I was watching and I was like, "Is this a random?" And then for a while I was like, "Is this the orderly? Is he a werewolf?
Is he the werewolf? Yeah.
Because
But they
he's
don't
not
change.
around
He's
sometimes.
a wolf, but
They
not a
don't change.
werewolf.
But yes,
back.
but then when I was like, "Oh, well,
It
then
would
that
make
would
no
make
sense for you to peel your skin off.
I
to-
thought our reveal was like one of these people is a werewolf.
Well, the reveal in
Was,
this movie was
or
cool
is.
because I think you don't get from the first movie that wolfsbane is like a suppressant. Like in the first movie, it looks like it's a cure because they
Fix you forever, yeah.
Yeah, because
That's an interesting thread that is an American Werewolf in Paris too, because they try to find a cure.
Yeah, and so but you don't get. It's not until you realize in this movie that it's not a cure.
Yeah.
And that's why a lot of the stuff that was like unanswered from the first movie comes back in this one, and they don't directly address it. But that's just me from having seen the first one. I was like,
Yeah.
oh, there's that guy who they never killed, became a werewolf eventually, and then was this one.
a
Yeah.
loose thread.
Why did she have that reaction that time? Like,
the
towards
one
the
with the
end,
arm?
Because it
when her-
was working.
I
I
think
think
it-
it kind of works.
I think it was working in a painful way because her transformation was too far. Too
she's-
far in.
The progression has.
So I
already
think the
kind of
more
rejected it or something.
Yeah, exactly. I think the more she, and this is just us like making it up. I'm pretty sure we can probably look
The
it
more
up.
you pump, the more you dump.
Possibly, I guess it's just I think the more she changes, the harder it is for the medicine to work, and so the reaction to it is probably
More intense.
Yeah, more intense, yeah.
Because she did get one strong arm like Popeye style for a little bit. And I was whoa.
It looked like it was growing like an eye. It was some really cool
It was like
effects there.
Yeah.
some Resident Evil fucking William Birkin type of shit.
I know. I mean, it honestly looked like some shit that would happen to Rick and Morty, and then that character's gone now.
That character's gone.
And
Yeah.
you're like, okay, cool, bye bye. But yeah, solid wolf in this. Then of course the half wolf was pretty good too.
half wolf.
Yeah, and I guess just in,
They have a decapitated dog in here, and you're like, God.
that is rough. I was like, man, that poor dog.
That's why I'm like, man, it gets into some edgy, crazy shit. in there.
It's dark. I mean, the fact that they're the human villain in this, that orderly, I forgot the name already.
It's Kyle or something.
Kyle is a really awful dude.
Tyler.
He's really bad. And then it, like
he's trying to sexually abuse people, and then this wolf's trying to sexually abuse her too.
and then he gets gas. Then there's like, oh wait, he wasn't. But I don't know. Was he not?
I don't think he wasn't
When it
at the
comes to the
very end,
ghost?
but I do like that the movie
Leaves
is
it-
consistent.
yeah.
No, I think it's like
Everyone's a bad person.
Every single one.
yeah, but I do like it's like what Drew said while we're watching. He's like, I like how he's gonna get his, and I was like, I think the movie tries to make you feel for him or being like, oh, maybe he's not that bad, but he did some pretty shady stuff.
It's still pretty awful.
He was giving
yeah.
people their drugs.
Yeah, and so like
For
him
sex.
him dying is probably very satisfying. Like
Yeah.
having the werewolf stuff.
Either way.
regardless
That's
of
why I
whether
don't
or
know
not
why
he
she
was
felt
lying.
bad. Like, oh damn, he didn't do that. I was like, yeah, but
Yeah.
he's still abusing
Your
her.
grandma didn't smoke.
Yeah, he's still
Yeah.
pretty shitty.
Oh, and like the grandma problem, like there was a reason why she was probably burned because she probably was abused. Like she was abusing
we're
this girl.
we're standing ghosts. We're
Wow.
on the
Well,
ghosts.
I mean,
Well,
to be
'cause,
honest, Ghost's probably my favorite character in the movie. Like
Yeah.
just as a character.
And then she turns, but again, like there has to have been a reason as to why she burnt
yeah.
the grandma. So it was probably some sort of fucked up upbringing she had to turn her into this.
I mean, it is kind of a.
This is all the twist. This is like third act stuff that we're talking about. This is like what if you guys haven't seen it,
Yeah.
you're listening to it. But I was like, this is where the movie gets really fucking crazy.
And that's what I'm saying. Like, if you power through, and there are a lot of moments in this where it might be just way too dark for you, or maybe way too, I don't know, like moody to
Yeah.
where it's almost like they're not even doing anything.
Like
It's just kind
there are,
of.
I think, suicide jokes in this when
Yeah.
she's like sitting down at the
Oh, yeah,
round
definitely,
table
yeah.
where she was like,
Yeah.
"Wow, it looks like you don't know how to kill yourself because she's got a bunch of slits on her wrist," and you're like, "Damn, this is
Rough.
crazy."
that is a dark. Yeah,
But
that's
once
a dark
you
shit.
once you get to that ghost part in the third
Yeah.
act, I think things go into overdrive, and then it almost recontextualizes the movie that you were just like, that was weird.
Yeah,
And now
yeah.
you're like, oh, okay.
When there's
Makes
like
sense.
there's like 4 different villains. So there's like the state hospital that's trying to take you back.
Yeah.
There's this kid that's crazy that burnt her grandmother. There's this guy who's sexually abusing as
The
an
only-
orderly and the werewolf.
The only good person was the mechanic who let her use the employee restroom.
Yeah, and then
And
got
then he
cold.
dies.
And then he dies. But I mean, like, come on, they don't have to let you use their employee restroom. He's a freaking hero.
I love
Yeah,
how he
go
says
shit in the woods,
the
like the
staff-
dog you are.
That's what you say. Drew's like, go out there. I
like
know
the
you're a
wolf
dog.
You are. Yeah.
I'm just gonna assume you're a werewolf. Go shit outside.
I like how he says staff bathroom. Like,
Yeah.
Like
Like
he's,
if-
not,
if,
he's
like,
not
there's
the only
more-
one working
Yeah.
there. Like if
he's
he's
got
my
a
personal
staff-
restroom.
We have 2,000 people that work here, so
I
Yeah,
just
he's
laid
like,
a fat shit
it's
in
just
there.
it's after business hours, so you see no one here.
where do you think, and I don't know if this is like super readily available, but she seems to have And maybe this is in the first
A
movie.
ton of wolfbane.
Yeah, I'm like, where do you get wolfsbane? How do you get it into liquid form?
So-
And then how do you get it into like a syringe?
They
cap?
say it in the first movie that like the wolfsbane itself is actually like
Pretty common.
It's something that you can buy like at Hobby Lobby. They fucking say in the movie.
You can get,
Oh,
you,
you're right,
You can
yeah.
go get the
dried-
essential oils
well,
of wolfsbane.
It says
and
you can buy the dried like the plant from like a craft store, and then you you just melt it down like almost like a heroin.
Well, that's
style
why I
and
thought
stuff.
she was doing heroin
Yeah,
in the
yeah.
thing because she's literally melting shit.
And then you melt it down, and then that's how they inject it. They go into that in the first movie. I think they say it in this one when they try to discover what drug she's
Yeah,
taking.
yeah.
And they kind of say it like in a throwaway line, like, "Oh, this is actually available."
It's also
at a
weird
craft
that
store.
in this rehab center they keep the drugs there. Does
They
that
keep
make
the
sense?
drugs
Like
there,
they're
yeah.
like, oh, she's doing this new
the
drug.
stash.
We better hold on to that, in case she wants more.
Well, I don't know.
I don't know. I don't know if they do
I don't
that
know if they do that or not.
She
'cause
even
it's like-
experiments different ways to intake it in this one. She's like, let me drink
she
it.
drops it.
Let me
Yeah. She
drops
gets
it
some
in
drop.
her eye.
I remember
she inserts it into a very personal vein.
That's a very
I
uncomfortable.
don't think
oh,
I don't think
shit.
she did
I
that.
don't think she did that. It was
like,
a very.
"Damn."
I
That was
think
the
it's like-
orderly.
yeah,
Addicted.
that orderly is like, yeah, that's a very uncomfortable scene.
That's something that he does.
Yeah, that's something he does. But it's also like it shows the. I mean, that scene is supposed to be uncomfortable.
Yeah,
And
that's
it
why
really
he gets it.
across-
That's
yeah,
why
that's
he
why
gets.
it,
That's
yeah.
why he gets the
You have
best
to kill
death
him after
scene
that.
in the whole thing.
You have to kill him after that. Yeah.
When he gets tore up from the floor up.
During the scene where she's looking for something at the grandma's house to inject with, she's like, "Your grandma has diabetes." Do you remember
yeah,
that?
just
Your
out of
grandma
nowhere.
has something, right?
Yeah.
It's like, damn, girl, calm down.
Just.
She's like, I
Have
know
diabetes.
your grandma has diabetes. And I'm like, God, you don't even know her. The ghost.
You just look at these cookies in here. These ginger snaps.
I can't believe they never mentioned the cookie. I mean, they would now. Like now, all the movies are kind of meta. They kind of don't take themselves
I feel
seriously.
like I should watch the first one and see if there has. I don't know. If there
Every
is a
movie
reference to that.
says their name in the
They
movie
have to
now.
say their name.
Yeah, you know Jeff Bridges.
I mean, it's not gonna
he's
happen
like,
in the-
I'm the old man.
It's not going to happen in the
FX.
prequel in the 1800s. They don't have ginger snaps yet. I don't think, right?
No, the prequel one. I guess for
Yeah,
some
tell us
context,
a little
because-
more because I don't think we're going to watch
No,
it.
no, you guys shouldn't. I mean, it's not.
It's the origin.
It's
the prequel.
yeah, it's some sort of like curse that
Oh
happened
shit!
back
It's
in
like
the day.
Candyman, the original one. Remember
It's
when
basically
Candyman goes
something
back in
like where
time?
it's just like because like Bridget and Ginger they played earlier versions like ancestors of themselves, but they're
Bridget
still
won.
They're still named Bridget and Ginger.
The OG Bridget,
it-
Omega Bridget.
The whole thing takes place in a fortress, a Canadian fortress in the 1800s. So like the cast is really big. And apparently it's surrounded by werewolves, but you only see they only have like 2 suits. So like it's all
That's
it's
pretty cool.
It's the way this is shot, like very you can't see
a
the
little
wolf like nothing.
avant-garde, but also a little dark,
Yeah, but it is cool to see like a giant I don't know
epic-ish.
it's sort of epic. It gives off the impression that it's epic. It's really not,
Yeah.
and then it kind of just falls really flat.
The werewolves fly now?
No, but I don't know. In this one, it's weird. Like there's more lore. The second one or the third one is very lore heavy. Like
Yeah.
it's very like you're building a world out of this. But that one actually was
It's not a
the
wolf;
worst.
it's a coyote. Actually,
That's that's probably the worst one of this. So I can see why they didn't want to make any more. But apparently in 2020
Here we go.
they it's
coming
was
back.
announced, Yeah,
All
there was
right.
announced it was going to be a series.
Are you
for
serious?
sci-fi.
Oh, I can see that.
I don't know if it's for sci-fi, but
Oh.
it's just he's making that up. But like,
Yeah, I just wanted you to.
but there is going to be a
shit on
series.
anime.
Yeah, I don't know that. I think the producers of the original movie and the director, was able to option a series after this.
You
I don't
know,
know
this
what.
the content wars. Everyone needs to
yeah, that's
redo
true.
something.
They're going
Everyone
to really
needs-
reach for something that made $80,000.
I don't know.
Quibi's gonna show this hardcore.
I don't know what they haven't announced, what service or whatever, but
Yeah.
they did. The option was like to
Well,
fund and write.
You've seen them all. What is Ginger Snaps? Like what is it like a sibling story about this disease that will kill you? Or because what would make
I
it
think
different
it's
than
It's
another
all about
werewolf thing?
sisterhood.
I like it. It's like a sisterhood, puberty, drug addiction, just like almost like kind of like very heavy, like almost real world themes, and especially when it comes to the angle, especially the first one, the angle of one's changing body, whether you're a male or female or not. That one obviously goes into because of who the characters are. It's more on the female experience, but it's a coming of age almost in a way. Only just the circumstances around it are really extraordinary.
Yeah.
And to have that in a werewolf twist, I think is really cool. Like that basically answers what me and Drew were talking about, like maybe after the last recording of this one, or while we were watching American Werewolf in Paris, is you don't really see a whole lot of fresh takes on werewolf stuff. And I think to me, this one really stood out because of, because of that, kind of morphing it into the body transformation, turning into your body's changing, and there's new urges, there's new
You're trying to find a way to suppress something.
something that like
yeah, is inevitable.
yeah, exactly. And I think having that angle to it for these, I'm gonna say these two movies. I don't know if that. I guess that theme is prevalent is relevant in the third one because the third one's kind of like a remake of the first one, sort of. But to have that as like the central theme of these movies is really cool. And then kind of just throwing it in like a little stylistic like gothic twist. Goth as in like not gothic as in like castles and shit like that. I'm talking
You're
about
talking Sharpies.
I'm talking about like Hot Topic. Yeah, exactly.
You're talking Hot Topic.
It's like a Hot Topic goth.
Yeah. All right.
Having that thrown in there, adds for a very moody, like very, I don't want to say surreal, but like a very moody and atmospheric take, atmospheric, like, backdrop to these movies, which is like, makes them a whole lot of fun, especially the first two. I mean, you guys seem to kind of take into this second one. I was wondering if you guys would actually watch the first one.
It might happen because this one was, I think, really impressive. But of course, like it was called Ginger Snap, so I don't really understand.
Yeah,
I don't really know what to expect.
True. I mean, you like I said, you can look at the title or the cover art for even the streaming.
Yeah, and I don't know. Did this work back then? It probably did, right?
I don't know.
Kind
it does look very much of its time, though. Like you look at a cover
looks
from
like
that
the Omen
era.
remake or something.
Yeah. And so because someone brought up, I've seen the Ginger Snaps DVD, which is kind of rare. And you're just kind of like looking like, wow, you're gonna pay like $20, $30 for this.
You know what I will say? Ginger Snaps and Ginger Snaps 2, I think would if it released now and it did like because this movie didn't cost much, it's a couple $1 million.
Yeah.
If it did like the indie route where it played at Sundance at midnight, I think people would. There's a whole culture now for like the Ari Aster type horror. Does that make sense? That probably didn't exist back then. Where it was like, oh, maybe it happened in DVD sale, like Blockbuster shit,
right.
Which is where it probably was appreciated. We couldn't tweet about it or whatever. It was just like, what commercial played at the Super Bowl, and we're gonna watch that movie. But I think this would be appreciated now more than it probably was back then.
It was probably a little bit more ahead of its time. I would say so because I was like, this would definitely be.
And how rare, you don't normally get a movie that's focused on, at least for the first, from what it sounds like, and this one, I guess, in a more fucked up way, like a relationship between two women, like sisters, or in this one, a lady and an insane little girl. But they're normally, especially in genre, that's not what you see on screen.
Definitely not. And I think like movies like this paved the way for movies like Jennifer's Body and stuff like that. Like I bet you Jennifer's Body, actually, in retrospect, they probably took a lot of. Someone probably watched this.
Yeah.
Or, Diablo Cody or Karen Kasuma.
Yeah.
I think they probably had a bit of influence on that, and so.
And honestly, I think the biggest
cool.
legacy from Ginger Snaps 2 is probably Tatiana Maslany, who was really young in this, but went on to do really big things with Orphan Black.
Yeah.
And is now She-Hulk. Like I think
she's now She-Hulk. Yeah.
This is her, and I think this is really impressive for her. If this is her first role and was like a child actress, which she is in this, really impressive. Like it's a heavy, meaty part that is twisted. It's a character that has secrets. Like it's not a normal role that you would give a young actress. It's probably why she had the career that she did or still has. It's a really impressive role for an introduction to someone. Well, let's go around the horn and give our final thoughts on Ginger Snaps 2. Andrew, why don't you snap into some of that gingy?
I think that this is a super underrated double feature that people should be watching more during Halloween. Because it actually does deliver on some of the, not so much like, I guess, terrifying, but just terrifying subject matters.
Yeah.
And also, if you're squeamish, I think it's perfect. You want some of the gore during Halloween and stuff like that, some prosthetics and some makeup, and that's the fun of it.
Some knives, scissors, razors.
Yeah, but
household objects.
This one is obviously a little bit more non-conventional that I don't think that would fly underneath your radar. If you hadn't heard of the word of mouth or someone hadn't seen it, so
I guess that was CGI. Sorry to interrupt. The eye turning yellow like Sith.
That's the only thing.
But that's not. Yeah,
but
that's cool though.
But yeah. It's. I know it's kind of like a feel bad movie, but at the same time, everyone who's bad kind of gets theirs. Where it's like that girl who started bullying
Yeah.
and throwing coins at she gets murdered in that plastic,
Yeah.
on that plastic, and the orderly who's sexually abusing his whatever for because of their addictions.
Gets
Like
ripped apart,
he
yeah.
gets ripped apart, and so it is pretty satisfying, I think, in the end for a horror movie, but it still has that horrific ending that I like because so many of these movies end like and they lived happily ever after. I was like, well, that wasn't scary, but this one you're like, oh shit, she's got a fucking werewolf as a fucking pet now.
Yeah. We need that. We need the ghost sequel. Like, who cares about the werewolves at this point?
Yeah, bring her back. This is
What's she
perfect time.
doing?
She's like she's
Get
She-Hulk
Tatiana
now.
Maslany
And
to
she's
do
just
it.
been feeding people to the werewolf the whole time and stuff
Yeah.
like that. And man, it can get fucking creepy and scary. And then she could be making her own army of lichens, where like she doesn't let she only puts your arm down there and you get bitten, and then she keeps you.
She's
And now
got the
mul-
wolfsbane. She can.
Yep.
She's got the whole supply.
She just fills wolfsbane in the jars and throws them at the wolf she don't like.
Hey, Ginger Snaps TV writers, hit us up.
Hit us up.
It's time.
Or I want an origin story for polyester that the scarecrow that she makes that explodes.
But yeah, I thought it was really cool, and I think you should definitely check this one out. This one might be the best movie we're doing this month.
It's pretty good. It's solid.
Probably,
It's
yeah,
a pretty
probably good.
solid movie, but who knows? More lycanthrope down the road. John, what do you think about this movie?
I'm gonna echo what Drew said. I'm a little relieved you guys actually like this movie. It would have been weird to kind of like have someone really hate it and then just be like, oh, well, this is the ep or something. I do actually. Yeah, this movie's great. Just watching it again, like you guys watching it for the first time, but even watching it the second time and seeing it again run through while we record is it's pretty fun. I like the first one a lot. This one technically isn't as strong as the first one, but it still goes in its own direction, which is really awesome. And it doesn't really try to repeat any of the tropes. Kind of like the third. The third one does repeat a lot of the, almost like the main, I guess, arc that's happening in the first one. But this one really tries to go do its own thing. I think the twist in the movie is very,
It's
effective.
satisfying,
Yeah,
for
it's
sure.
satisfying. Having Ghost be the villain and stuff. Even the way it's kind of like you have some really kind of smart like cutaways and transitions, which are cool. Like you think at one point you think Ghost is actually being bitten, or like attacked, because you see like something being rolled in on a slab. After that, like the cut is someone's rolling a cart down the slab, and you're like, oh, that girl died or something. But it's not. It's just like a fake out and stuff like that. So a lot of that happens in this movie, and that's pretty cool. Like a lot of fake outs, and even in the way it's shot and edited, that's pretty cool. Like it's obviously someone's having fun either in the editing room or shooting it on the spot,
Yeah.
or it's just that just adds to the awesomeness around the movie. So yeah, Ginger Snaps 2 Unleashed. Depending on what you're watching it on, you may not get the 2 or the Unleashed, but great movie. I think you should, if you haven't seen it, and I think you should still do yourself a favor if it's free to watch. Watch the third one too. It's kind of it's ridiculous.
It's solid. Yeah.
I wouldn't say it's solid. I mean,
I'm sorry. This one was solid.
Yeah,
That one, I don't know. I haven't seen it.
Yeah, I think that one's the first miss, but that's also the last one anyway. So at that point, it's kind of nothing's happening anyway. But Ginger Snaps 1 and 2, good flicks, good modern werewolf movies, and I think it's fun, not for the whole family, but it's fun for a viewing around like Halloween time. It's a pretty good
Yeah,
run.
it's a fun watch. I'll say there's plenty of moments. I think that if you're squeamish, you'll look away, but sometimes that's kind of what you want from a horror movie,
Yeah.
to have those kind of moments. I think it's also a little over the top as well, but that's
Totally, is, yeah. It fits in the.
Yeah, it fits into the genre of,
You can kind
of what it is.
It sets that itself up too. I think
Yeah.
like the.
I mean,
There's
the-
obviously
the-
there's some camp even with some of the performances.
The ghost
yeah.
reads Arthurian style,
Yeah, she like quotes herself in the third person.
Yeah, so I mean, it's that. But I feel like the ghost is an incredibly textured character. It has a lot of thematic stuff, which I think you'll enjoy, albeit really, really dark. I mean, drugs and sexual abuse.
Yeah, some of it on the nose, but it doesn't make them any less effective.
Yeah, and then even the ending is very melodramatic. I think she asks to be killed, and the ghost like puts the gun down and shoves her into
Shoves her in the hole. Yeah.
So it's an incredibly dark, moody piece. It kind of makes me really sad that we don't get to see what happens with ghosts specifically afterwards. But I think it's meant to leave you with that feeling. But yeah, I think it's a fun watch. It's a pretty quick, efficient movie. I don't really think it has a ton of jump scare type stuff. Like, it's not a conventional horror movie
When
in
it comes
any
to
way,
that,
really.
yeah. No,
like,
not
so
really.
I think it's, I mean, there's some moments where, I mean, when we see that like, yeah, I mean, there's moments where you're like, oh, this might get into some crazy suspenseful stuff. It sort of doesn't. It kind of leans towards something moodier every time.
Yeah. Mhm.
I'm thinking about like when she comes upon like the mechanic dead already, and then they just leave afterwards. Like, it's like, oh, I
Yeah.
thought there was gonna be like a thing here.
Like a set piece. Or
Yeah,
something,
but it's not. But that's fine. Like, that's what the movie is. And yeah, I think Ginger Snap and Ginger Snaps 2, if only someone had given them a different name, I think people would assume that this is a horror movie that has a werewolf. Because I think that a lot of people
You don't get that from just
don't
like
know
yeah.
what is happening here. Like, an American Werewolf in London. That's the pitch.
That's pretty much, yeah.
That's the log line.
That's about Ginger Snaps the cookie.
That'd be funny. They'd be like, we need some brown sugar, some cloves.
Yeah, that movie is not about werewolves.
Yeah, watch it. I think that, yeah, this is definitely one of the better werewolf movies we're talking about this season, but let us know what you think. It's on Tubi. So
It's on Tubi. Yeah,
watch a couple ads.
I was gonna say
You
Peacock
don't even
for
have
the
to
first
sign
one,
up.
yeah.
You can watch it as a guest.
You can watch it as a guest if you sign in
I
on
wish
an
I knew that.
Xbox. Yeah, on Xbox.
You
yeah.
signed in. They have your info, baby.
Yeah, they got your shit.
All right, well, let's go around the
Give you
horn.
nothing but Fox News ads and just let.
Hey, kind of a waste of an ad because I'm already watching. Andrew, what do you have to plug?
Check out the Dirt
Remember,
Sheet.
it's October.
The Dirt Sheet Radio with Juicy J in the streets. And check out The Countdown Strikes Back.
And Jumbo J in the sheets.
That's what John likes to call himself. But yeah, check out all that stuff. We should have already kicked off our episodes for Andor and the Bad Batch because Bad Batch was supposed to be in fall, and hopefully it wasn't delayed. But check that stuff out, and then check out the Dirt Sheet Radio if you like the professional wrestling world. Who knows what's happening there at this moment because we're recording so far in advance.
Yeah.
John, what do you have to plug?
The world changes like from week to week. It seems like so. Who the fuck knows?
Monkeypox
what
has
we
run rampant. They fused together with COVID, and it's
Good
COVID monkey, bird, swine, cow disease.
Oh my God!
It's just
guess
one mega
what?
flu.
Guess what? I'm not getting the vaccine. No, I'm just kidding. John, what do you have to plug?
That threw me off. Sorry. The Countdown to Infinity is a podcast that is still going on. If you guys like your Marvel,
What is something coming out in October?
I have no clue. I think there's
Black Panther 2 is November.
November. I think there is something.
She-Hulk?
She-Hulk will be actually
That's
yeah.
this month.
She-Hulk
It's
would
August,
be
right?
yeah. Well, She-Hulk will be done by then, but that's also related to what we're talking about because like the actress who plays Ghost,
Tatiana Maslany.
she is She-Hulk in that one. Yeah, Countdown to Infinity is cool. Listen to Sophie and Delphin on that one. They have if you want to stay up to date on all your Marvel content. The Countdown Strikes Back.
I already said that
Oh,
one, John.
yeah, my bad shit. But
You can plug Brent and Adam, though.
that's true. Yeah, Director Showdown is I think still on its hiatus. Or I'm not sure actually. By the time this was recording, they could be, but anything's possible, I guess. But if not, they have a incredible backlog of episodes from different seasons where they put directors against each other, and then they talk about the differences and some similarities and stuff between each one. So it's a fun listen. Go ahead and check them out. Director Showdown.
Sweet. Thanks for listening to this pod. Go to patreon.com/DelphinPod if you want to support the pod. If you like Marvel, I just Googled what's coming out. Black Panther Wakanda Forever for sure in November. And this is wild, but the second season of What If, Guardians of the Galaxy Holiday Special, and Secret Invasion will all be out by the end of the year. That's a lot of
I
stuff.
could have swore What If
I
was
feel
like.
like some of it's going to get delayed.
I knew I was about to say.
Yeah,
I
for
thought
sure.
What If was like
Some
pushed
of it
to next year.
will be delayed. But
definitely
thanks
gonna
so
be
much for listening. We'll see you next week for another howling good time. Okay, that was good.